about asthma, how it is being dealt with in India, kind of infrastructure that's come out to support it. And we actually speak to two people who are dealing with it in day to day.
So if you have asthma, if you're either born with it or thanks to the beautiful polluted cities that we stay in, if you've got it, there are solutions available, lifestyle changes, and there is life beyond asthma, which is what we look at. Also coming up on the program, your Instagram has not stopped talking about the Met pictures. So much of India presence over there, from SRK to Kiara's baby bump. A lot of debuts making their way on the Met Gala wrap. We'll take you through all of that. Let's get started. Let's clear the air on asthma. World Asthma Day, inhaling hope and exhaling stigma, running past the respiratory roadblocks and breathing breath by breath as India moves to a better understanding and ability to tackle asthma. Meet the Indians living strong despite asthma.
And after that, we bring you our person of interest. We're talking today about HopeWorks. It's shifting the narrative. It's making early empowerment changes. And we're going to talk a little bit about how it's a mission. And we're talking about the woman who is turning hope into action, specifically for younger women and young girls.
Also on TBC this morning, Italian design meets Indian streets. The VLF-10 is looking good, but is it also a decent ride? We'll talk about all of its chic outside, the practical inside. The scooter gets an overdrive verdict.
And after that, the thing you are possibly most excited about, it took place just a few hours ago, Met Gala 2025. India's big king making it on the red carpet. We're talking about Shah Rukh Khan, of course, but it would be incomplete without touching on the others. Diljit Dosanjh, loved by millions, his outfit, an ode to culture. Also, you have Kiara Advani, Isha Ambani, and more. Alright, we're starting today by focusing on something entirely different. It is World Asthma Day, and while asthma is now a manageable symptom, a set of symptoms, India still faces a massive public health challenge. We have over 34 million asthma patients, 3.4 crore. It's one of the largest patient populations in the world. Nearly 90% don't receive the right kind of treatment. Now, the standard global protocol is very clear. The way of treating it is inhaled corticosteroids.
But in India, there is life-saving inhalers are often unaffordable, rarely prescribed or simply dismissed due to the misinformation and stigma, which is exactly why this year's global theme is direct and urgent. Make inhaled treatment accessible for all. And this morning on the Breakfast Club, we go to the real life, the real journeys and what India needs to breathe easy.
Okay, so let's introduce our audiences to everyone we have joining us. First, because we thought it was very important to hear from people who are actually dealing with asthma in the day-to-day. We have Rohan Ajay joining us. Now, Rohan is just 9 years old and he's actually joining us after completing a 6K run. He lives with asthma. He's with us. We're also perhaps going to be joined by Ajay. Ajay Unikrishnan will also join the conversation. So he'll be joining us in a little while from now. We also have Maria Vrajnesh. She's a young woman from Kerala. Good morning, Maria. We can see you already on the screen. Hello. And she navigates asthma every single day. But let's go very quickly first to our young hero, the young man who is dealing with this every day. Rohan, congratulations on completing the marathon. I think you're joined by your father. How was the marathon? Tell us about that first and then we'll ask you more.
Actually, Rohan is 7 years old.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so 1 year older than we just said he is. But please tell us a little bit about what it was like for him to run.
It was really difficult for him to get into sports because of asthma. Yeah. So we have my daughter Gia. She was into cricket. So this is our coach Umesh.
Lovely.
So he
Okay.
helped.
Hello. Morning.
So he is a BCCI certified coach. So he helped us. So he introduced Rohan to sports. Actually,
Screen today. Lovely. Let me just tell our audiences that once again. On the left, you have the coach. Right in the center, of course, Rohan's dad. And on the right, the hero of the moment, Rohan, who, as you're saying, uncle, with quite a bit of difficulty, has actually done this. It was very tricky for him. Can you just walk us through why it was challenging for him?
actually, her sister was more into sports, and he also wanted to do sports. So because of asthma, he couldn't do that. So I just talked to our coach, and he said like let him walk first, and he introduced him to like how to run, how to take like how to breathe. So this was the start.
Okay.
I see, I see. But Ajay, can you tell us a little bit about first a background on how he got asthma? Is it something that he was born with? Is it something that he picked up along the way? And I'm sure as a parent, it must have been a tough call to put your child through such a grilling time. What made you take the decision to go ahead?
Actually, I had asthma. Like I had asthma till 4 years, and my mom used to say that it was really difficult for her to see me breathing. And I'm not sure whether this is genetics. We moved to Dubai when I was 6 years old, and the climatic conditions over there was much better than here. Like we live in Kochi, where the humidity is high. I'm not sure. Like I don't know the medical. Like is it because of the humidity? But when we moved to Dubai, it was much better, and I got into cycling into six when I was six, and it was much better. So I knew that like if we get into sports, we can overcome this. So I wanted my son, like he was 3 years old and he had breathing difficulty.
see.
I'm not sure like whether it's genetics because my daughter doesn't have this. So he was 3 years old. That's the first time we saw him. He had a breathing difficulty.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to come to hear more, and you touched right now on the doctor and the fact that so many questions still remain around how asthma is passed on from generation to generation, if it is, or whether it's just a shared living space. Just stay with us, please. All three of you, just stay with us. Let's go very quickly to Maria. Maria is joining us from the same state. So she's also coming in from Kerala. She's a young woman who navigates asthma every single day. Maria, just tell us a little bit first about your story, how you've dealt with it, when you first came to know you had it, how your family has dealt with it. Then we'll ask you more.
Hello. If you ask me for a specific memory, I can't remember because from the time I started to understand things or recall about my early days, asthma was always a part of me. I have heard my parents saying that when I was 6 months old, that was the first time that asthma symptoms were shown on me. And the first symptoms were like I was crying a lot, there was a wheezing sound, and along with that, I was suffering to take breaths. So when they took me to doctor, they gave me nebulization, and while the family history, it runs in my family. My father has asthma, my grandfather has asthma. So that was the diagnosis because the symptoms were recurrent. That's how I was diagnosed with asthma.
I see. I see, Maria, how is life now? You've been dealing it practically all your life. Are you constantly on inhalers? Have you made some lifestyle choices that help you to stay fit, stay normal, do activities on a regular day basis?
The early days of my childhood was very difficult actually. I used to be, every alternative day, I used to be either in hospital or with inhalers. But along with that, thanks to my coach again, my school coach, he forced me to get into sports, whichever was possible for me. And with that sport activities, I recovered a lot. And right now, I can say the asthma attacks are only just occasional or episodic. I don't have to rely on my inhalers every day. And my lifestyle, with this certain lifestyle changes like breathing exercises, getting more into active lifestyle. And the most important part was understanding my triggers. Triggers are internal and external both. So understanding all the triggers and the way it performs, I have just created an awareness inside me so that I can avoid the triggers and live a happy life.
Oh wow,
Right,
okay.
right.
Maria, it's also lovely, you know, when you say happy lives that you get that smile. It's clear that you have been able to build that for yourself. And we'll ask you a little more in a second. Let's just go back for a second to Ajay. Ajay, remember, is Rohan's father. Ajay, one second, I just want to explain to our audiences again. We're looking at Rohan's coach, you, and of course Rohan, all in the same frame. Ajay, if we could just come back to you and ask you, the unique thing that you bring to this story is that you are someone who dealt with asthma. Now your son is dealing with it, and you have made the changes parents make to make sure your son has a healthier life. So you told us about moving to a different city, abroad first. Now in Kochi, you said that there is clean air available. But I want to understand beyond that, Ajay, when it comes to growing your child up, making him feel like he is strong and capable, what are the steps you've taken? And I just mean as a parent, psychologically even, you know, what do you tell him in his day-to-day to make him feel strong and able? And what are the differences you try to make from your own when you were growing up to how you parent him?
Actually, we try to understand like what makes him like what factors affects him to
Triggers.
have an asthma attack. There are certain factors like dust, water. Like he's a naughty kid. Like he wants to play with water. So what we've done is that like actually we wanted him to come into sports so that he could have develop a better like I'm not sure of the medical facts, but what I went through is that I got into sports and I could overcome asthma. So I wanted him also to be in sports so that he could overcome that. So this man over here, Umesh, he's a BCCI certified coach. So he coached.
Right. On that note, can we ask Umesh as well? Very quickly, I see Dr. Nangle has also joined us. We'll just go to him in a minute. But Umesh, you guys are a beacon of hope for everybody watching right now on what life with asthma can actually look like, even at a young age, if you do just the right things. Do you have some tips that you want to share? Or is this line still frozen?
I think, yeah, it might be frozen. Let's go over to doctor.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Vivek Nangia is with us. He's a chairman and head of pulmonology at Max Hospital in Saket. Good morning.
Morning.
Asthma Day brings in it. There was a time when we used to talk about asthma being as a disease or perhaps a thing that you had to live with, which altered life. Today, we've just heard from case studies where they tell us how they have managed their asthma in a way that they have a more normal life. They understand triggers and it is more manageable. Would you say that we have progressed India in terms of availability of treatment, awareness on the matter?
Definitely. You know, as far as treatment for asthma is concerned, the treatment has got advanced quite a bit now. But one thing we need to understand is like we have diabetes, blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, where you need to take regular medication. So also for asthma, you need to be on regular medication to keep it under control. And the medication here is not in the form of tablets, but in the form of inhalers. You know, people have a major myth that you become dependent on the inhalers. What they don't realize is like any other form of delivery of drug, you know, whether it's a tablets, injection, inhalers are also just another form of delivery of drug. In fact, the advantage of inhaler is that it's a microgram dose as compared to a tablet. A tablet, if I was to advise, usually give it in milligrams. But here, the dosage is micrograms. That means 1/1,000,000th the dose of a tablet. Then you give it in inhaled form, where the moment you take it, it goes directly into the site where it is supposed to act. Not that it first goes into the stomach, gets absorbed, travels through the entire system to reach the site where it is supposed to act and cause a lot of side effects on the way. So inhalers are the mainstay of treatment, and if you're able to take your inhaler, identify which inhaler suits you the best and take it regularly. Okay, even amongst the inhalers now there are two types of therapies, the controller therapy and the rescue therapy. So controller therapy is something that you should be on regularly if you have an underlying asthma. Till a stage comes where your doctor himself feels that okay, it's time now to give you a break from all that. but there is a maintenance therapy that you should be on all the time, and keep the rescue inhaler with you anytime there's an emergency or you're still not controlled over and above with the maintenance therapy. So I guess if you manage your asthma properly, there's no reason why you can't lead a normal life.
Good to know.
Doctor, tell us, we just spoke right now to Ajay ji. Ajay's son Rohan is 9 years old and has asthma, and in this case Ajay also at one point had asthma growing up. I mean, has lived with asthma. I want to ask you, doctor, he asked something. Is asthma genetic or not? Now, we do know asthma has a genetic component, but I believe it's a little more complex than just a single gene causing asthma. Can you just explain that to us?
Absolutely. So there is something called atopy. Atopy basically refers to the allergic component that a patient can have, which could be familial in nature. But asthma could also be acquired because of so many other factors like air pollution, like your exposure to dust, smoke, chemicals. All of that could also be happening. Recurrent cold, cough, even an emotional stress can sometimes precipitate asthma. So what is important is to be able to identify what is triggering it off for you. It could be familial, and yet it could be very well managed. In fact, now there are also treatments which are beyond the inhalers, what are called the biologic. So people who are not getting controlled with the inhalers, we give them biologics, which are extremely effective modality of treatment now.
I see. Dr. Nangia, the headlines over the past decade or so now have been about how air pollution is ensuring that kids are now born in the city with defunct lungs, on how without having genetic factors, they are developing disorders, modalities in a way that they all end up having compromised lungs or sometimes asthma as well. How much do you think is actually awareness on this, and what do you do in circumstances like these? I know a lot of doctors say just leave the city, but for those who can't, what is the way to live with it?
So basically, I think this is something that we've discussed earlier also on several channels and several new shows. But unfortunately, we haven't made much breakthrough with it. But the only breakthrough that we've made is that the awareness has spread quite a bit. That air pollution is causing a lot of respiratory diseases is now a well-known fact. So earlier when we used to find it difficult to explain to people that why out of the blue have they suddenly developed asthma. Now they come to us saying that, doc, ever since I've come to Delhi, I've started having these asthma-like features. And I was quite happy. When I was traveling abroad, I was absolutely well and there was no problem. So the awareness is quite a bit. There are various studies also that have been conducted, especially in children, where they've compared the lung functions of children in schools from Delhi and two other schools of southern India where the air pollution levels were not as high. And they've clearly shown the difference between the lung functions of Delhi students, which is worse than those of the students in southern India where the air pollution levels are lower. So air pollution is definitely contributing to it significantly. Now the question is how to live with it. Living with it is not easy. One, of course, is that you avoid moving out completely when the AQI levels are very high. So basically the time has come where you need to decide your outdoor movement based on the AQI levels. So if somebody already has an asthma, then an AQI level of more than 200 is somewhere where he or she needs to be careful about their movement outdoors. Beyond 300 is something they should completely stop their movement outdoors completely. In between 200 to 300, they avoid any kind of strenuous physical activity like running, jogging, exercising. And beyond 400 is like an emergency that nobody should be moving out at all. So, there are different cutoffs and different levels that you need to consider about your physical activity outdoors.
Doctor, just stay with us 1 second. We'll just come to you with another question. I want to thank Rohan and his father Ajay. Let's ask them a question very quickly.
Before we do, I have a question for Umesh.
The coach.
Who's the coach there. And I'll tell you the beauty of the conversation we are having this morning. It's not every time we have a story or we report on asthma, it's all about inhalers, people coughing. The pictures used are very, very grim. It's sort of, Toya is coughing just on cue.
Different reasons.
Just to sort of tell us that, this is such a hard thing to live with. But when you look at stories like Maria, when you look at stories like Ajay, you feel like, it is manageable as well, which is what brings me to people who are making it happen. Umesh, Umesh ji, I don't know if you can hear me. It would be lovely to understand from you, क्या changes करे हैं आपने? What kind of changes have you brought into the little boy's life so that it is more manageable for him? That he's running marathons for 6 kilometers, etc. What changes have you brought in?
Actually, 2 years before they came our academy, the cricket academy, they came here and that time Ajay told me he's having asthma. In the starting time, he ran only 2 rounds. This is Ajay family is a sports family. They all come in the Chaitanya ground every day and do exercise and
Awesome. Okay, I think we've again lost the connection. But
He
just
said Ajay's family is a sports
family,
They
right,
come
right after
together,
that.
they work together, and that's how they've made it
and look
happen.
at those
That's really
visuals.
sweet.
Those are visuals on your
Yeah.
on your screen right now. Young Rohan with his awards over there. Doctor, can we just switch focus slightly and ask you this? I have myself seen people around me get asthma attacks. You know, and in Delhi in particular, when the pollution is worse and an asthma attack does happen to you, if you don't have your inhaler, in Delhi at least it can be quite dangerous. It takes quite a while sometimes for people either to find other inhalers, to be taken to hospital. Infrastructurally, it's still a bit of a mess in that sense. It's still a little dangerous in that sense. So doctor, I want to ask you, the area of growth, the future for India, what does it need? Pollution-free cities we've discussed. That's a much larger thing. But individually, how can individuals keep themselves safer? How can we build safer worlds for individuals who have asthma?
So basically, I think the first and foremost, as I said in the beginning also, is to identify and avoid the asthma triggers. Whether it is the house, the dust mites, the dander, the smoke, the pollution, whatever it is, the pollens, this is also the time, April, May is the time when you get exposed to pollen. Second is maintain a healthy diet. It's important to have a nutritious diet, not full of all the fats and the carbs, but a high protein with the adequate amounts of antioxidants also should be there. Regular exercise once the asthma is under control. Not at the time of asthma, when you're already suffering an asthma, then you shouldn't be. Then there's something called exercise-induced asthma also. That if you're aware that the exercise is going to trigger off your asthma, then you take 2 puffs of the inhaler before you go in for that exercise. Fourth thing, you should quit smoking and avoid secondhand smoke. Both the things, whether it is active smoker or somebody who's standing in the vicinity of a smoker, both are being equally harmed. In fact, somebody who's not smoking and yet inhaling the smoke, I feel is harmed more. One, because they're not at fault. Second is that 2/3 of the smoke comes into the environment around. So when they inhale that smoke, that obviously causes more damage to their lungs. And we must remember there are about 5,000 chemicals and toxins in the cigarette smoke that can harm us. 50 odd out of them are the ones which can cause cancer. Then, of course, it's important to manage stress because stress can sometimes also result in asthma episodes. People suddenly, when they become very happy or very sad, they're crying episodes, they can all result in asthma. It's important to maintain healthy weight. Obese people would be more prone to developing asthma. So it's important that you remain healthy always. And of course, have a proper asthma action plan in place. As I said, there's a maintenance therapy and a rescue therapy. So you should be in conversation with your doctor, your pulmonologist, who can actually guide you as to what to take when. And there's something called peak flow meter. So you manage your, make a chart of your peak flow rates on different days, different times, and see that which is the time, which is the day when it is getting worse for you, and how you can add on therapies to it on your own if you're not able to reach the doctor. And as I said, above this now, after the inhalers also, now there are newer modalities of treatment which are called the biologics. Actually revolutionized the management of asthma now, especially the refractory and the severe cases of asthma.
Doctor, thank you for shining a light, especially on the newer treatments that do exist. Maria, thank you for joining us. Thank you for walking us through your own experience with asthma in the day-to-day. Let's move on from the story now.
All right, so that was all about World Asthma Day, but the internet is talking about Met Gala. One of the grandest events of the year is here. In fact, it happened just about a couple of hours ago, and it is called fashion's biggest night. It became even a tad bit special for Indians because this time around we're seeing a lot of Bollywood debuts. There on your screen is King Khan as he made his debut on the red carpet. Not the man we often see on red carpet at all. And he talks about it. There is also so many others that we'll take you through. There was Kiara Advani who featured her baby bump for the first time. Internet can't stop talking about that. And then there is Diljit Dosanjh, who's made a mega entry in his own style, true to his sense, blending in tradition and yet making it so modern. A lot of Indian designers also this time around who have made a debut. You've got Sabyasachi, you've got Manish Malhotra, Gaurav Gupta, and a lot more.
Right, okay, let's very quickly bring on a guest to break this down for us so we can properly break down our looks. That is Manish Malhotra. You can just see the gorgeous embroidered outfit he wore. Now let's tell you a little bit. The theme of the Met Gala this time was Black Dandy. And it celebrates a very particular interpretation of fashion. It's not just fashion, it's counterculture. And we'll talk a little bit about how different designers interpreted it, because one of the most fascinating things is watching how designers take a theme and take it and marry it with whatever it is that the star stands for. Internationally, stars like Zendaya and Rihanna have over the last few years become famous not just for their own work off the red carpet. Their fashion is to watch for here, their intelligent interpretations. And so just to go over, to understand this a little bit more, we have designer Didi joining us this morning. Shivangi Lahoti, thank you for joining us. Shivangi, you've joined us on the show multiple times before. Before we get any further, what does Black Dandy mean? What does that theme mean? How does one interpret it as a designer? And your favorite Indian look? Then we'll go deeper.
Okay, all right. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Toya. So Black Dandyism is actually a really powerful concept. It's all about black men who have historically used fashion, especially sharp tailoring, as a form of self-expression, pride and resistance. It is something that goes beyond style. It's actually political in a lot of ways, right? It's about saying I belong, I have agency, and I'm going to be seen on my own terms. At a time and era, we're talking about historically, we're talking about, emancipation in America. We're talking about the Harlem Renaissance. We're talking about all of those things that impacted the black identity. And this is sort of a resistance in a way. It's a political statement where you're trying to come out there and taking influences, of course, from the European, Western culture. Men and women both coming out and taking ownership for their space and saying that this is how they want to show up. And it's more about identity. And I think that is something very powerful. And at a time like this, I feel representation really matters.
It's quite a statement, yeah.
It's very exciting to see, all of these amazing celebrities that we look up to, or we've grown up seeing turn up on the Met Gala for like one of the biggest fashion events of the world, right? One of the biggest global fashion phenomena, and show up in these crazy outfits with their own representation of the Black Dandy. Having said that, it's hard to pick one when it comes to picking my favorite, because I mean, come on, I'm a Shah Rukh Khan fave girl.
Yay!
I have grown up like just drooling over SRK my whole life, right? So it's really hard. And considering the fact that this is the first time he's walking the red carpet for Gala, it was so iconic. And the K was not Kiran, the K was actually,
Khan.
Khan. And it was the king, right? So it was so iconic. I absolutely loved the layering of, jewelries. I loved the little stick, the scepter that he had, the tiger, which was again symbolic of Sabyasachi and the Bengal tiger, of the designer. I think that was one of my favorite looks. Although there's been like a lot of hue and cry about Gaurav Gupta's look being something that has been done in the past.
Yeah, but before we
go
move
to Kiara,
before we move on to Gaurav Gupta, I just want to spend another moment on SRK because this look deserves that. We actually have some of the moments captured on the red carpet that have been picked up and some of the stuff that he had to say. Let's quickly listen.
My designer, Sabyasachi, he thought of it, and for him it's an expression of freedom and trying to be resolute and resilient against things that can oppress you. So, yeah. being an actor, I thought it was very interesting how the resolve to change things without attrition or anger, but have exuberance of art in it. So that was marvelous.
Such an SRK thing to say. Such an SRK thing to say.
It's just such a, I don't know, special moment of pride to finally see him on an international stage like that one, you know, a fashion one. Because we've seen him in other aspects, but not bring his style out. And he does have such a specific style.
And
but
can
Shivangi,
can I say my favorite line he has said so far on the red carpet? Shivangi's gone on mute, I think. But this favorite line that he said on the red carpet, I think the host asked him, "Who are you dressed as?" And he said, "I'm dressed as SRK."
of course he did.
He didn't. There wasn't an inspiration. There was nothing. It was such an iconic SRK look, yet elevated by Gala. So kudos to Sabya for that as well.
He's also, I think, in the past said my biggest role or my favorite role is playing SRK. So it ties into that. But Shivangi, the other person I really want to touch on that had the internet talking before we get to Kiara is Diljit Dosanjh. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that was also typical Diljit Dosanjh in the sense that he used this moment to give an ode to culture, to his own culture, to stand tall. Walk us through the thought that went behind his look.
So, okay. If I talk about Diljit Dosanjh, while the internet seems very divided on the entire look, I think it's quite a statement. I feel like the way he's paid tribute to his, culture and, where he comes from, and the way he sort of, I absolutely love the tripanch. I love the complete look with the matching turban, the opulence of it all, the dripping in diamonds and kundans and jadaus with golecha jewels, all of those sort of complementing the whole look. It made it look so put together, and I think the significance of it was he was really embracing the royal side. He was really shooting, and I think Prabal as a designer, he's a Nepalese designer. Prabal Gurung, the way he actually embraced Indian culture into that one look, because that is where you sort of merge Indian identity into Black Dandy. When you talk about it and when you think about it, how do you merge, or what is it that, the intersection? I feel like Diljit Dosanjh's look was right bang on. It was exactly what we needed in terms of interpreting, Indian traditions and roots and our culture and history, and sort of merging it with, the Black Dandyism, which stands for individuality, which stands for making stand for yourself, right? And being seen. And I think you can't be seen better than, the way just that.
And again, very, very classic Diljit Dosanjh style, because his phrase that he keeps saying everywhere, right? Like Punjabi aage hoye. He did arrive. The Punjabis did arrive on Met Gala with him, with everything that he does and says. It was so true. Requesting our producers to also pop up those pictures for Diljit Dosanjh. Absolutely stunning. The way the entire look has been crafted. Again, kudos to Gurung for having done that. Not a mainstream designer that we hear of so often in the space of couture.
Prabal Gurung
so
huge on the international stage.
Yes.
Priyanka Chopra has worn him a ton of times too. Yeah. But let's also, until we wait for those visuals, let's talk a little bit about Priyanka. All the rest, Priyanka and Nick over there. I think Priyanka was wearing Bulgari. She's always wearing Bulgari. But that look, I think, was a Valentino look. Talk a little bit about that, and also talk to us about, there were others. There was Kiara, there was Isha Mani, but there was also Manish Malhotra. Love seeing a designer on the red carpet.
Can I say what I noticed? The beauty of, and I don't know if it has been spotted by so many others. Kiara Advani had a gold umbilical cord. She debuted her baby bump there, and she had a gold umbilical cord, which I think is so thoughtful.
Connecting the heart of the baby with the heart of the mother.
Oh my God, this is so special, so thoughtful. I just loved how the entire group has been, how the entire look has been put together. What do you think?
For me personally, I'm pregnant at the moment. So for me, the most beautiful, thank you. So the most beautiful look that I could talk about after SRK, because of course there's a bias there, has to be, this very stunning outfit that Kiara was wearing. I absolutely loved the breastplates. I loved how the umbilical cord was tying together the whole thing. And the symbolism of it all, right? The way Gaurav thought about it in a way where he wanted to tie together, sort of individuality, but at the same time, how generations get impacted and how every new generation, the birth of a new generation, comes with newer opportunities, and to show that through that entire corseted silhouette, although it's very feminine, it's not very masculine, but
but very edgy, very edgy. Look at the cuts there. Look at I don't know what it's called, the thing that flows at the back. You can
the train.
Yeah. How it came, how all of it came together. It was so nice. I have not seen a look like that in a while.
I feel she looked like a diva. She looked like a goddess. She looked like in full glory, and she was glowing. The mom glow was there. She looked absolutely stunning. I think that was one of my favorite looks. So 2 of my favorite looks right there.
There we go. We've also just pulled up Diljit Dosanjh on the screen for a second, so you can take in. This is really the look that Shwangi, you touched on. It has divided the internet in some ways, but I love that you say that this is your favorite look because of just how carefully it ties together the theme, Black Dandy, and the Indian roots that he's trying to bring to the fore, the touch of royalty he's trying to bring to the fore. Shwangi, very quickly, as we keep those visuals of Diljit front and center for our audiences.
I'll tell you what also, Toya, in terms of tying together this look, I personally feel that there's a very deep cultural expression here because historically also Indian men, all our Maharajas, when you look back, right, they have had a very intricate relationship with elegance. Whether it's the intricate embroideries on their garments or the jewels. If you go to any of the Indian historic museums, you'll see these references. And to embrace it so openly at a time and era and at a stage like the Met Gala and, sort of reclaiming our heritage, taking our bandgalas and our sherwanis to like a global platform and like just flamboyantly but yet like very subtly putting it out there that asi whatever
Punjabi
and on the cloak on the back also he's put up visuals of the embroidery that was done there. It's all very, very symbolic. Okay, Shwangi, what we haven't been able to talk about with you, and we are running out of time right now, but just tell us overall your favorite Met Gala look, because we've talked about all the Indian looks, we haven't talked about any international ones, but this year there doesn't seem to be a viral standout moment. You've had, Rihanna, for example, Timothy Chalamet, they've in the past worn these absurd looks that really stay with you. I can't see any of that happening right now. Is it too early to say that?
Or that meme which Priyanka Chopra had,
of course, which came out of her outfit.
I will not forget how somebody called it Chai Ki Upar Ki Malai.
But also I do want to tell our audiences, Rihanna came on the street and confirmed this time, instead of on the Met Gala, that she is pregnant. That's A$AP Rocky, that's her partner who she's pregnant with once again. But she did it on the street. In the past she's done it. In the past she's done it on the red carpet. But this is him talking about the good news.
So I think for me, one of my favorite looks
One sec, Shivangi, one sec.
Oh.
It was amazing, It's tired of holding that, and it's time to just show the people what we was cooking up, and I'm glad everybody's happy for us because we definitely happy,
He is also known for his style. Just A$AP Rocky is all about the style. But let's just go very quickly back to you, Shivangi. You were talking about, has there been a viral moment this time, overall?
I think one of the most iconic moments that I feel, and I feel like it's still unfolding. I feel like there's still a lot more happening with the Met Gala. We are still in the wee early hours of the evening there, so there's going to be a lot more after party looks and everything else. But currently, for me, I think Mona Patel has stolen the show.
Let's talk about that.
Oh my God,
yes.
I love the custom Tom Brown look. I love the robotic dog from MIT. I love the 3D printed hat that they did for her, the embellished corset. I love the little white bow detailing.
Absolutely, I'm so glad you brought it up. Yeah.
It was just so stunning, so iconic, and I think every year I feel like this woman just it a notch higher, and who better than Tom Brown when it comes to tailoring, right? He's literally writing love letters to tailoring on an everyday basis, and to pick somebody like him as your designer for the Met Gala, I think is amazing. I loved the customized movement that they had with the dog. It was so iconic, the way the dog was sort of walking. It was just so iconic, all of it put together. The bag that she was carrying, the whole look was very dandy. Very dandy, actually. I think she actually served, the theme just how it was supposed to be. So
Mona Patel, I think even last year when, her first look burst onto the scene at the Met Gala, everyone was like, who is this person? I believe she's actually a businesswoman, but just someone with excellent fashion taste, a fashion nerd, if we may. And that's why I think you can see those very, very carefully made references. This is a student of history, ladies and gentlemen, right? The fashion history.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll leave it there for the moment. But thank you so much, Vangi, for joining us and decoding all those looks. She rightly said we've just seen the start of it. Many more will unfold as the day progresses.
Okay, let's quickly head into a break. On the other side, we are bringing you the person of interest. We're taking a look at HopeWorks. They're shifting the narrative by empowering women across the country, and we're going to make you meet the woman who is turning thought into action. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
उस फिल्म में पता है मर्डर
Can it be attached to the whims and fancies of a mullah madrasa bred general of the Pak army? Who actually gains from drawing Bharat into a kinetic engagement and escalation at this time, in this region and also geopolitically? Is the real enemy operating from the shadows? Was Pahalgam plotted in Beijing? We ask. And viewers, we urge you to think about this and consider. And by resisting a knee-jerk kinetic reaction, सीधा जाके मिसाइल फोड़ देते. That knee-jerk reaction would have had repercussions, consequences, and perhaps we would have been drawn into something that would have hurt us in the long run. Has Bharat, by resisting a knee-jerk reaction, kinetic reaction, dodged a possible strategic ambush? Let's try and understand this in greater detail and perhaps more perspective. Tilak Devashaji, former member of the NSAB, author himself who understands this region and geopolitics, has been a regular with us on the right stand. Thank you once again for being with us here on the show, Tilakji. Always a pleasure. Andrew K. Pilong, China strategist, and we'll understand the Beijing perspective and of course his own understanding of this region. But first we'll go across to Srimoy Talukdar, senior editor, First Post, who's written a fantastic piece about this very possibility. So Srimoy, what prompted you to write, and you have qualified by saying this is all circumstantial evidence. We have to consider this possibility. There is nothing actionable to say that Beijing perhaps was involved. But is it in Beijing's interest that Bharat gets engaged into a regional war or regional conflict?
Anand, thanks for having me here. In any financial crime, when investigators start their operations, they always look for this very small thing. It's called follow the money. Where is the money trail gone? So if you take that paradigm and apply it here, as in who benefits from an India-Pakistan kinetic action right now? If you follow this question and go to the logical end, then you will come up with the obvious answer. Because see, Pakistan, it is not in Pakistan's interest to launch a war against India. The country can hardly sustain itself. It's a banana republic. It's somehow carrying on its daily activities through doles from different financial institutions, and it is at the mercy of many other bigger powers. So for Pakistan, the primary focus should be its internal stability as well as development of its very poor people. Their per capita income is even lower than in India. So why would a country which has basically, and Pakistani generals, regardless of what they claim, they know that they can never take Kashmir away from India. So what is this big point about fighting wars with India every now and then? But if you look at this from another angle, that Pakistan is acting not as a sovereign country but as a mercenary state, and it is being used by another country which directly does not want to get involved and enjoys plausible deniability, it is then according to my understanding that the pieces start making a lot more sense. Because if Pakistan and India go into a kinetic action, escalation dominance is very difficult, because Pakistan's conventional warfare is obviously India enjoys slight.
Welcome back. You're watching The Breakfast Club. Let's quickly take you through our person of interest today. And there is no shortage of conversations around gender equality. But a few sort of years back, the action that has been taken, Jacinta Jayachandra, she actually comes into focus. As a founder and trustee of Hope Works Foundation, she's been working at the grassroots to empower young girls from deprived communities.
She helps them build tools to build emotional resilience, access holistic education, and seek meaningful employment. And we thought her work had to be highlighted because it is actually so much more than just physical skill building. It is about building strength from the inside. So, joining us today on the show, Jacinta Jayachandran. Let's go over to her to understand more about her journey. Jacinta, thank you for joining us. Tell us, what was the spark that led you to start this foundation? Is there a story behind it, a moment?
Well, there are, right? One was the life journey. I knew always that I wanted to go into social impact before I turned 50. Don't ask me why that was the magic number. It was just something I was very clear about. And I had studied in a government-aided school in Bangalore. So I went into that school to find out what I could do in terms of enabling the girl children. And I met the current principal there, and Sister Pauline is her name. I asked her, what can I do? And I had actually carried a checkbook with me. When I studied in that school, the toilets were really dirty and very difficult to use. So I thought maybe I could fix the toilets and then figure out. She listened to what I do in the corporate world, and she asked me one question, and that was, can you teach my girls hope? Because you're saying you're teaching corporate leaders leadership. And it actually just, made me rethink, what exactly was this ask, and do I even have an answer? Can hope be taught? Can hope be learned? And I actually, for the first time, did a deep dive within myself to understand what is hope, and it's not just a 4-letter English word. So I went and did a little bit of research for about 3 months by taking a sabbatical, and then spoke to Professor Rick Miller of Arizona State University, who runs the Masters Institute, and at that time was the CEO of Kids at Hope in the US. And I asked him, what is hope? He's only worked on hope, by the way. And that call made me realize that hope is not just an English word. It is a life skill that all of us need to learn. And when you speak to Rick Miller and the number of lives they've transformed and the stories they have, it was such a huge inspiration to say, this is exactly what I want to do.
Wow, that's quite a beautiful and powerful story. But why this specific focus on girls between 6 to 21? What's unique about this age window, perhaps, in shaping gender equity?
What I realized while working with women leaders across organizations, especially in the corporate world, we were sort of catching them when they were in their mid-career journeys and teaching them how to carry themselves as women who believe in themselves and have the leadership potential. And I realized a lot of times, and not just a lot of times, almost all the time, it's not the skill that is not there. It really is the social conditioning which makes you believe that probably I'm not a leader, which makes you all the time second guess yourself, which always almost makes you believe, how do I prioritize? And I realized, therefore, instead of doing this at a later point in time, why not start very young? Help girls as young as 6 to believe they have an equal space, that they can own their space and just be themselves. I don't think we should give permission for the social influences to get to a point where a really well-educated woman working with all her might is still very doubtful of her leadership capability and capacity. I wonder if we could do this much, much before. And we may not be able to change all the influences, but if we can start working with them when they are very young in schools, I think we can really change the way they think, they believe, and they act.
Each of your answers is just so beautiful and so layered. Jacinta, can you tell us, What are some of the biggest myths or misconceptions around what you choose to do, which is this equality work?
I think one of the first things is, I think, of course, there's plenty spoken about female infanticide, etc. I don't even want to go into those. One of our girls is earning and is supporting the whole family. And she has a brother who refuses to go to work, does not contribute anything to the family. And she still feels the mother is really supportive of the son rather than her. I think it begins there. But I also think, I came from what was, I think, in my childhood, a lower middle class family, a low income family, to where I think I am today. You knew patriarchy from, I think, the day you know and feel that you are a female, you know patriarchy exists, right? And I think one of the things that you are always made to believe is that the boys are better. And very often I wondered that it was mostly the female members in my family who had these feelings. So I do genuinely believe that patriarchy is not just about the men. I think women are really, in some ways, the torchbearers of patriarchy in families.
That's true. That's very, very well said and true. But what does emotional strength then really mean to you? I'm sure in your conversations, in your training with these young girls, how do you build something, confidence, hope perhaps, in people who are coming from such deprived backgrounds?
One, I believe, is show up consistently if you want to really work with them and be there with them. I'll share an example, Sonal. We used to work with a home for rescued girls, and there were kids as young as 6, and they're all girls. And one day we were teaching them how do you identify feelings, right? And what are these big feelings that you have inside? And so we conducted a little dumb charades kind of a game where we taught them how you feel, and we made them guess the emotions, and they did a great job of it, right? After that, I was sitting with the 6-year-olds. There were about 8 of them. And I said, now we gave them crayons. We said, draw yourself, right? And say, what is the emotion you're feeling? And believe me, Sonal, out of the 8 kids, I think all 7 of them drew themselves. And then they identified anger and sadness as the emotions that they are feeling at the age 6. It actually, just really troubled me. And I realized emotional literacy, emotional awareness, and emotional response can be taught. But the building block for it is actually being aware of what you're feeling and having the license to believe it is okay to feel these things. I'm okay to feel anger. I'm okay to feel sad. Because I think somewhere, especially for children, we don't really validate their feelings.
Jacinta, I must ask you, when people work in the profession that you do, or when they are mothers, which so often women are, they're women, who are working and mothers at home, they are giving. How do you refill your cup when you are pouring constantly into the cups of others?
I think the idea of lifting each other up when you do this work, right? We partner with that many partners across India. Right now we have 7 chapters in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, but this year we are going to Maharashtra and hopefully to Jharkhand and Orissa. How do we reach there? We reach through partners who are actually doing social impact work at the ground level. And you come there to collaborate, cooperate, and make this work, because the people for whom you're working deserve that bit of generosity of working together. So the day that I feel I'm not able to find the resources, I could always call a partner organization or somebody else and say, hey, you know what, I'm struggling with this. Do you think you can connect me to somebody that you know? And believe me, in the social impact space, I think the idea of collaboration that I have experienced has been truly, truly something that I think everybody else needs to really understand and adopt. Because collaboration here is, we use the word hyper collaboration. I believe this is way beyond hyper and humane collaboration. I saw it during COVID times. I've seen it in the 5 years of running this particular foundation of mine through the many projects.
Right, Jacinta, lots of stories that you have shared with us, but this is person of interest. So we have to ask you questions on how you are sort of straddling both worlds. You are somebody who works at the grassroots level for social impact that you spoke about, but you're also a corporate, leadership coach. So how do you really balance out both worlds, which are at the ends of a spectrum, really?
I'd like to speak at two different levels. One is it even possible that these two worlds meet? And I believe they do, right? At a personal level, if I have to speak, currently I, work with an organization called CalFIS, and I realize that the leadership team there, the founding team, is phenomenal in terms of being able to support me in being able to do both, right? They give me the space. In fact, I tell them when I'm available, when I'm not available, what am I doing, what am I not doing, and how this world for me is a world that is unified. It's not two different worlds. So, it does come together. The second place where they really talk to each other, I can tell you, is that we have mentors and faculty members who are all volunteering their time for us. And we have a band of over 100 faculty members and over 200 plus mentors. And they're all from large corporates holding significant positions of responsibility in those organizations. They all show up, Sonal, every Sunday to come and teach our girls. There is nothing that we offer them other than the space to come and share their learnings. And it's not like they come on a single day, on one Sunday where they come and train our girls, because our girls are in colleges from Monday to Saturday, right? Sunday is the only day we get to meet them. Believe me, they come, they train, they spend time, they truly hold the girls as they grow up and move into different careers.
Nice.
Jacinta, it's been lovely to have someone like you, someone who's thought so much about the work they do, about the impact they're having on the world. Tell us, if resources and time were not a constraint, if you could build anything through HopeWorks Foundation, through the message of HopeWorks Foundation, what would it be?
I would like to talk of two because they're interconnected.
Sure.
Right? I do believe, like I said before, just like you talk about digital literacy and maybe now making everyone feel that they have to make AI their ally and work with it, not be fearful of it. I think these are very important skill sets. Just like that, I think being hopeful and practicing hope, it's a science. It's not just a good positive word. It's not just optimism. Hope is far bigger than that. And if we have to teach this like we are teaching our children and seeing such fantastic results in their lives, I do believe this has to go into every school, every college, every home, and every corporate and every workplace. If there is a way to establish a Hope Institute and truly institutionalize what we are doing in our own small circle, and we are trying hard to make it bigger, I'd love to see, because I think this is something that needs to be researched, it needs to be understood, it needs to be taught, and it needs to be learned like every other skill and super skill that we are learning. I would love to establish something like that. On the other side of it is, there are underserved communities in India even today, right? So I would love to establish a chapter, if not in every village, at least in every district. And this is something that I speak to everyone that I meet, and it's something that we speak about in our office all the time. I'd love to create mobile hope vans, with which we can go into every village, teach not just digital skills and AI, but also teach hope.
Jacinta Jayachandran, spectacular work that she's doing, and here's wishing her all the very best for Hope's Foundation as well. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very quick break. Back in a moment with all the videos that you have missed.
Mahi sir, how much?
Can it be attached to the whims and fancies of a mullah madrasa bred general of the Pak army? Who actually gains from drawing Bharat into a kinetic engagement and escalation at this time, in this region and also geopolitically? Is the real enemy operating from the shadows? Was Pahalgam plotted in Beijing? We ask. And viewers, we urge you to think about this and consider. And by resisting a knee-jerk kinetic reaction, सीधा जाके मिसाइल फोड़ देते. That knee-jerk reaction would have had repercussions, consequences, and perhaps you would have been drawn into something that would have hurt us in the long run. Has Bharat, by resisting a knee-jerk reaction, kinetic reaction, dodged a possible strategic ambush? Let's try and understand this in greater detail and perhaps more perspective. Tilak Devashaji, former member of the NSAB, author himself who understands this region and geopolitics, has been a regular with us on the right stand. Thank you once again for being with us here on the show, Tilakji. Always a pleasure. Andrew K. Pilum, China strategist, and we'll understand the Beijing perspective and of course his own understanding of this region. But first we'll go across to Srimoy Talukdar, senior editor, First Post, who's written a fantastic piece about this very possibility. So Srimoy,
Welcome back. You're watching The Breakfast Club, and it's that time when we bring you all the pictures and videos that you really want to look forward and start your day with. And we are not done with the Met Gala just yet. This year's guests were told to dress according to the theme of Tailored for You, and a nod to the exhibit called Superfine Tailoring Black Style at the museum's Costume Institute. Now, the Vogue editor-in-chief, the woman behind this whole phenomena, Anna has organized and sort of presided over the event since 1995. There is a word that says AWOK, like every design that the celebrities wear, they have to be okayed by her, otherwise you don't get to enter the Met.
This was also the first time you had black men as co-chairs, so many black men rather as co-chairs. Lewis Hamilton was one of the multiple men, Cole Domingo, a number of top black men from across the world coming together to celebrate the black dandy. And on your screens, perhaps the most fashionable woman in Hollywood. That's Cole Domingo, but a second ago the person we were showing you was Zendaya. She's the person we were referring to when we say the world's most fashionable, Hollywood's most fashionable. Zendaya's designer is someone who is also very well loved. He was actually a guest to the Ambani wedding. That's how well known the designer just is, the person who puts together, rather, the stylist is. This look of hers, a sleek, sexy ode, a toned down Zendaya look. It's a matching white suit and jacket. A lot of more pared down looks we've seen at the red carpet this time.
A lot of hats actually, which made a comeback this season, and that clearly is something that could be staying. Oscar winning actor Zoe Saldana, let's move to that one, looked radiant in white and black as she hit the red carpet as well. Those are the pictures over there. Also, singer Rihanna arrived as the other celebrities were leaving for the glamorous event, looking visibly pregnant. The announcement had happened just moments ago and confirmed later by her partner.
ASAP Rocky.
ASAP Rocky, yeah? Okay. And she also arrived with the others, leaving, you know, the event in an absolute glamorous tone.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. We're leaving you with these visuals.
Bye-bye.